that kind of nature of behavioral issues alone. If you are not a special ed teacher, okay, you'll have a paraprofessional there who is trained to help monitor the student and the needs of the student. And it could also be a special education teacher who will be in an inclusion classroom, a certified special education teacher. It may not necessarily be a para. That's just FYI. And then positive behavior supports in early childhood. Of course, if they can diagnose a student as early as 2 years old, they can start already giving positive support systems for that child even before they start going to school in kindergarten. So that is something really important for pediatricians to be able to diagnose so that this child gets early interventions. SWPBS, which is school-wide positive behavior supports, is you already have some information about positive supports through other students and their diagnoses and their special needs. Preschool children, as you can see here, if you've got students who are able to get services early, they're able to be able to monitor and control their behavior at an earlier time. Now, if they don't have preschool and they're not given those interventions, there's just a high likelihood that they will have difficulty in the public school. And then components of the pyramid model for promoting young social emotional competence. I'm actually going to go back. So this model, there is a video in your textbook about this model, and I'm going to have you watch that video on your own. What we are going to do with the social stories, we're going to watch a video concerning social stories and the effectiveness of it. So I will move the video. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play the video of what we're going to watch.
Social stories are an evidence-based strategy used with individuals with autism spectrum disorders. Parents and professionals develop the stories to address a wide variety of topics. There's a lot of confusion about what is and what is not a social story. Here we address the misconceptions by looking at the current definition of social stories and one of the most frequent mistakes made in developing them. The short definition of a social story states that a social story accurately describes a situation, skill, or concept according to 10 defining criteria. These criteria define the characteristics of every social story, as well as the process that is used to research, write, and implement it. The complete definition provides additional detail, stating that the criteria guide story development to ensure a patient and supportive quality, and a format, story voice, and relevant content that is descriptive, meaningful, and physically, socially, and emotionally safe for the intended audience. It is not easy to develop a social story. In my experience, most, if not all, mistakes can be traced back to failure to follow the social story definition. For example, the term development in the definition represents the many processes that parents and professionals are required to follow with each story. Consider a case example. Drew is 10 years old and is having difficulty during lunch in the school cafeteria. His teacher thinks that a social story may help. Before writing, it's important for Drew's teacher to observe in the cafeteria, talk with others who work with Drew, and maybe even talk to Drew himself. Also his parents, and then most of all, consider the situation from Drew's point of view. This helps to identify an effective story topic and its focus. But sometimes the research that precedes every story reveals an alternate solution. In Drew's case, what if his teacher discovers that he is being bullied at lunch? In light of the problem, writing a story about eating lunch in the school cafeteria is irrelevant. What is needed is an intervention that will bring this bullying relationship to a close. If, on the other hand, Drew's teacher discovers that he has difficulty waiting for his turn in the cafeteria line, a social story may be helpful. Omitting the requirement of research prior to a story is failure to write a social story. Story research is a requirement that helps parents and professionals identify solutions, including a story topic with the greatest likelihood of success. In other words, to know if Drew's story is a social story by definition, we need to know how it was developed, how it is written, and how it is presented to Drew. If you would like to learn more about how to research, write, and implement a social story, the most current information is available in the new Social Story book, the revised and expanded 10th anniversary edition published in 2010 by Future Horizons. There you will find a set of 10 tutorials that describe each criterion, including practice activities. It is available from the Gray Center bookstore and other distributors. I describe more about the book in another video on this website. I wish you the very best as you learn more about social stories, and I invite you to join all of us at the Gray Center in our effort to protect the quality and integrity of social stories. Thank you.
Okay, so a social story, as you can see in the book that she even provided there, is a story that helps, let me go back here, students with their behavior, okay, especially there's in social situations. Your textbook, and I'm going to go to your text here, discusses social stories right here in this section, and all these bullet points right here are noted in your PowerPoint. Okay, so descriptive stories talks about a situation, perspective about the thoughts of a student, directive is about a response or a cue, particular situation, and the control is recalling a social story to reassure themselves. So these types of stories that teachers can implement can help students also socially behave in a way that will help them function normally in any kind of situation. Okay, let me go back to the PowerPoint. Alright, so those are social stories, and then the last PowerPoint slide here, oops, let me go back, is self-directed learning strategies. Again, the whole point of special education, guys, I can't say this enough, I'll say this over and over again, is to help these students become as independent as possible, because that's what we're trying to do when we're parents and when we are teachers with students who will matriculate in each grade. Same situation with students with special needs. We want to help them to become as independent as possible. So self-instruction, teaching students to use their verbal and other communication, self-scheduling, self-regulation, time management, stuff like that, self-modeling, observing videos and pictures of doing activities in an appropriate way, and then self-monitoring, self-modeling, and then self-monitoring, helping them create some goals in order to make sure that they are moving up the ladder in their goal attainment, being able to attain this goal and then go to the next goal, and so on and so forth. So that's self-monitoring. And then that is it, guys. That is the entire PowerPoint. I do expect you all to make sure, let me make myself a little bit bigger. I do expect you all to make sure that you read the textbook and chapter in its entirety. Those videos are to help elaborate on sections of the chapter. So I also encourage you to watch those videos as well. And that's all.